This episode of the Beauty Industry Podcast was brought to you by Circadia Skin. Hello and welcome to the Beauty Industry Podcast, your online support community for the professional beauty industry. I am your host, founding director of Beauty Industry, Tamara Reid. Here we are closing the competitive gap and speaking your language. This is a platform created and dedicated to the professional beauty industry, valuing community over competition. We serve to help connect you with inspiration from industry experts, expand your knowledge through educational pieces, and bring you the latest in product and technology innovation. This is Beauty Industry. Today my guest is Makayla Herdman from House of Maxx. Makayla has been a leading lady in Melbourne's skin industry since 2015 after founding House of Maxx, a pioneering skin boutique located in Glen Iris. Makayla's drive to explore integrative, results-driven practice is the leading factor to her success. As skin trends and technologies surface in the beauty market, Makayla goes against the grain to correlate skin with health and continues to introduce research and solutions into her clinic, providing clients with access to innovative and holistic solutions. Her lifetime experience and passion has seen Makayla look toward food as medicine and has prompted 13 years of consistent education surrounding alternative therapies and the undeniable connection between one's lifestyle habits and the impact it has on our gut, hormones, thyroid, psychology, and skin. These days, Makayla is turning her attention to her clients with a new lens and one that she hopes will all start to look through. That is, honouring our clients' individual beauty beyond trying to fix their typically called imperfections, which you'll hear all about today. From House of Maxx, today we welcome Makayla Herdman. Makayla, welcome to the Beauty Industry Podcast.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here and talk to you about all the things.
Yes, I am so excited to talk about all the things. As I was just saying to you offline, House of Maxx has been in my periphery for quite a few years now. And let me just say, I am so bloody excited that I am back in Victoria. And when this world unlocks and the madness finishes, I am your first client. Let me just say that.
I'm so excited to meet you in person. I find I isolate myself a little bit from the industry, but when I connect with someone that seems to share the same mind, you'll hear from me often.
I am a fan of that. So just in case you didn't know, obviously we know House of Maxx to be what it is today, and we'll kind of explore that a little bit further. But we actually begin our episodes right back at the beginning of the person's career, because I'm super interested in, like, how did you go from high school into doing beauty? Where did that transition happen? And then how did you go to being, in the cool job that you're in now? So let's start there.
This story starts from the moment I was born, I think. There was never a pivotal moment where I transitioned into any sort of a career or I made the decision that this was the career that I was going to pursue. I was born quite unwell, and medical treatment just seemed to make me worse. So I was born in 93. And back in the 90s, people having immune responses and intolerances were just seen as something that was fussy. So we went on a little bit of an exploration using myself as the guinea pig on how we can better look after ourselves. And the reason that fits into this story of how I got into the career is because I was told not to go outside for most of my childhood. So Mum would take me along with her to all of her little beauty appointments, and I would sit there and I'd watch, and it was something that we could do together, and she seemed to feel better at the end of it. And I just really enjoyed that environment, that atmosphere. And I always was always made involved by the therapists, which was fun. And one day I was not allowed into a treatment room because it was a spa at a resort and no children allowed. But the therapist gave Mum, I wish I knew her name and I wish I could reach out to her, but I think I was like 7. And she gave me a book that had all these recipes on body scrubs and creams and how you can do all the treatments at home. So I studied that book, and I would make these creams and these scrubs up, and I'd put my mum in the bath and my mum's friends in the bath, and I'd scrub them down. And it just became something that I really enjoyed doing. It was like a creative outlet for me. It made me feel like I was contributing, and it also made the other person on the other end feel better. So I think it was around the age of 8, I knew what industry I wanted to get into. And at school, so I grew up in Gippsland, and I just seemed to be quite different to the other people at school in the way that I knew what I wanted to do. And school wasn't really working for me. Like my grades were fine, but I just didn't enjoy it. I got offered a traineeship, and I left school at the end of year 10. And that was my first taste into the toxicity that can be the beauty industry. There was like a lot of workplace bullying, and I was so young that while I was at TAFE, I started to explore like doing the diploma, because in a traineeship, you do a Cert 4, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And I was too young to do the diploma because I was under the age of 18. I hadn't finished VCE, but they had seen my grades and they gave me the opportunity to do all the modules of the diploma, but I only had one chance. And if I failed, then I failed. But I passed. So I graduated with a diploma when I was 18, moved from Gippsland to Melbourne, worked for Mecca for about a year. Mecca was a really interesting experience coming out of the beauty industry, because anyone that's done their training can probably relate when I say that it kind of kills it a little bit for you. It takes the sparkle off what you think the beauty industry is. So I wanted to get in and do just something fun. And makeup was something that I was really passionate about at that time. So I was a makeup artist at Mecca, and we learned a lot about customer service. And one thing that always stuck with me was sell like you're selling to your best friend. Everyone will interpret that differently, but I always took it as only sell what's necessary and sell from integrity. So I worked there. I decided to have a break from the beauty industry. I went into the fitness industry for a little bit, which was a great way just to work on communication skills. But all while I was doing this, I was still dealing with my health. So I had lots of gut problems. I had anaphylaxis. We went down all the natural and holistic pathways, so kinesiology, iridology, naturopathy, Chinese medicine. And then I started doing work with a woman that owned a colonics center that was a naturopath and a raw chef. So I started helping her out as an assistant when she would do her show, what would you call them? Like demonstrations, her cooking demonstrations, or not cooking, her raw demonstrations, I guess we should say. I would help her out. So she was the one that got me to look at my diet. And as I was learning about this with myself, I would also start to apply it to the people around me and see what was going on for them and how we had similarities. And then when I was working in the skin world, even just talking to clients, I would notice things like perioral dermatitis and that client having IBS or other bowel disorders or digestive issues. And I would always think like, why are we only treating this topically? Because the skin's an organ. We spend so much of our education learning about how the skin is an organ and all the functions, but then we only ever learn about how we can feed our skin externally. So because of mine and my mum's journey growing up and trying to uncover what was going on with my health, mum decided to study integrative nutrition and actually have a qualification over the top of all of her knowledge. And then, how old was I? I was 21, and I wasn't really progressing in my career in the way that I wanted to. I find there was a bit of a block. I could get so far in a business and then my passion would kind of fizzle out. And mum said, look, your little brother's leaving school, like, why don't we go off and do something? We initially wanted to do something in the hospitality industry. We wanted to feed people correctly. And then just because we're sticky beaks and we like looking at properties, we were like, let's just look at a few commercial properties. We went and saw this beautiful location on High Street, Armadale, and wrote a business plan then and there and opened the door 6 weeks later.
Wow, 6 weeks.
6 weeks later. Yeah.
She moves fast.
Yeah. And since then, we've moved clinic spaces, and this one we opened in 4. So maybe the next one will open in 2 weeks.
You're crazy. You know that, right?
It felt crazy, but honestly, that was the most fun. The anticipation of like what we were about to deliver people.
Oh my goodness. That's a really cool story, and really cool that you went into the beauty industry as well, you know, beauty and personal care, because I think sometimes we get into the beauty and then we understand health, but you've kind of gone the opposite way around. You understood the health and then you've gone, okay, well, now I'm going to apply this knowledge to the people that I'm actually treating, which is very, very cool.
Yeah, it was like my life and my passion became one thing. And I always say to people, like, my personal values and my business values are the same. I break all the rules in business. I work with family. I become friends with my staff. I now live with my staff member.
Oh.
And we live and breathe our brand. It's just who we are.
Wow. I love that. Oh my goodness. Very, very cool. I lived with a staff member once and it didn't go down well. So I'm glad that you guys are doing well.
Look, there's definitely been some hardships in the past with staffing. I'm not sure if you know, but like business is never smooth sailing. But in 2019, the reason we moved is I had a large sum of money go missing from the business.
Oh, fun.
Yeah,
okay.
So that was before the pandemic. And then we went into that. So it's been a hard couple of years, but I've always been determined. Like, I was 22 when we opened the doors. I wanted it to be on the same day as my birthday, which is August the 11th. But and if anyone's into astrology, you'll know I'm a Leo, so that will all make sense to you. But we opened a week later on the 18th of August in 2015.
Wow, that's very impressive. I mean, I have a question. Did you always know coming into the industry that you wanted to be a business owner, like starting off where you're like, this is my dream, my destination? Or was there somewhere along the way which you went, I could probably do this a little bit better or differently?
I think a combination. My dad has owned businesses from when I was a very small child. So I think I inherited a bit of that from him. I always had very clear vision, and I found the places I worked didn't quite hit the mark. And also, as like yourself, as someone that's been in the industry, you know what I'm talking about when I talk about the toxicity that can be within the beauty industry. So there was a lot that I witnessed that I didn't like. And I actually I'm quite controversial on my channels, I would say. I talk about, I call it the beauty bullshit. You know, the marketing strategies that we're told in order just to sell, and it's all based around product knowledge and KPIs instead of the care of the client. So I wanted to do things a little bit differently. I wanted to include people that were deemed a contraindication on client consult forms.
I love that so much. So much. And I guess this kind of goes down my pathway of your further study and education, because now that you've had these health conditions yourself and you're treating these contraindicated quote unquote clients, you would obviously have to upskill yourself. And I know that you have, you know, done some training, which includes oncology, aesthetics training, and, you know, the advanced cellular education. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So in beauty school, and I'm not a dermal clinician, so I know a lot of people in the industry are dermal clinicians. Maxine, who works for me, is, and I always say that she's the science to my intuition. I work quite intuitively, but I did find that we really were only, like as an industry, we were really only treating the people that fit a certain criteria.
Mm-hmm.
And those people weren't really the people that needed our help the most. So cancer is one of those things that's, someone lists that on a consult form. I don't know if it's the same as when I did my training, which was 10 years ago. I graduated, but we were told don't touch anyone with cancer. We were told don't touch anyone that's got a Fitzpatrick scale or a skin color that's past a certain type, because you'll damage them and just send them away. And I started initially working with a corneotherapeutic brand when we opened, because I loved that we could customize things for the individual, and it was about maintaining the skin's integrity at all times. So we weren't causing inflammation, we weren't trying to manipulate the skin, we were trying to have healthy cells that worked optimally. And with that, they did the pastiche advanced cellular training, and we could do different modules throughout the year and go off and do Florence Barrett Hill's training on our own accord if we wanted to. That was a really amazing way to flip the switch from product knowledge and applying it to a client to applying the knowledge of a client and finding a product that fit them. That's the best way for me to put it, because again, as you know, working in the industry, we're educated so much by the brands that we use, as opposed to continued education on the skin and how the skin works and why the skin does things. And then the oncology aesthetics, I had a very close staff member work for me, who's now doing amazing things in Geelong. We travelled to Auckland together to do the oncology aesthetics, and just learnt about how we can adapt our treatments and be more aware around different types of cancers, current and in remission, and how we can still give service and treatment to those clients, because treatments for cancer and oncology treatments are very damaging to the skin, not to mention the mental aspects of how people, especially women, look because of the societal pressures that we face of how we need to look a certain way. And I don't agree with the whole aesthetics narrative. I think it's all got to do with health. But when someone's going through treatment and they're not healthy, their skin's not healthy, they feel like they look that way, and they're also treated by most places as if you cannot touch them. It was very important to me to create that safe space for anyone to be able to come in and I not turn them away and say, I'm sorry, I don't know how to deal with you.
Yes. Oh my goodness. I'm so here for this conversation. And, you know, in my past career, I've been an educator twice around the block now. And one of them was for a product company. The other one was for a franchise company, but we had a product company in it. And, you know, I would so often stand at the front of the classroom and start to talk about ingredients and, you know, the benefit and everything that product companies often do. And I would further question the people in the class, like, okay, so what do you think this ingredient's going to do on the skin, you know? And so much of that conversation was centered around a lack of knowledge, as you say, from the skin. You know, we kind of tick a skin biology box in beauty school and then go, okay, let's park that to the side. I just want to get out into industry. And then we get out into industry and just keep on learning ingredients, benefits. And we don't actually do any further digging into the skin. So I really appreciate that you've gone down that pathway and you've further, you know, had a curious mind and wanted to explore that more, because I think there's a lot of people who sit in the safe camp and go, well, this is what I know. But there's that extra box of people who go, I want to, you know, I want to find out, I want to question what these people are telling me.
Yeah, I actually call it breakfast cereal marketing. I believe I made that term up myself. But it's when a product line will talk about the benefits of an ingredient but leaves out anything else. So for example, you have your breakfast cereals tell you like how much energy it gives you when really all it is sugar. So it's the same. And you hear hype words like hyaluronic acid or hype ingredients, like hyaluronic acid. And people always ask, do I need this? Is this good? And it's like, yes, it is good, but let's work at why you might need it. Let's look at that. So are you dehydrated for one, or are you essential fatty acid deficient? And if you're essential fatty acid deficient and dehydrated, let's correct that fatty barrier before we try and fill you up with water. And are we over exfoliating and therefore drying out our cells and having poor desquamation and crinkly, shriveled up cells that look like a sultana? So therefore, is the hyaluronic going to fix you, or do we need to delve deeper? Do we need to understand the mechanisms within the skin and within the cells, and therefore fix the start of the problem before we try and fix the symptoms?
After the break, Makayla shares why she's created the individual beauty movement and why the beauty industry needs to change. But first, a word from today's beauty partner. Community, Circadia Skin Australia are Australia's distributors of Circadia Professional Skincare. Bringing you the latest technology in skin science through education and innovative product development, Circadia is based on the skin and body's natural circadian rhythms. Based on the principles of defending skin from damage during the day and stimulating the repair during sleep, Circadia's formulations combine pure botanicals, stem cell technology, second-generation vitamins, and innovative peptide development to achieve optimal skin health and beauty. Circadia is considered clinically clean. They're also cruelty-free, fragrance-free, sulfate-free, and their packaging is eco-friendly and supports renewable energy. All their products are formulated, manufactured, and packaged in-house, which we absolutely love. If you mention the word beauty in your inquiry, you can get a $500 bonus worth of back bar with your professional opening order. That's right, just mention the word beauty for $500 worth of professional products for your business. Find out more at circadia.com.au or swipe up and take a look at your show notes to click through to the link. Thank you so much to the team at Circadia Skincare for making this episode of the Beauty Industry Podcast possible. And now back to Makayla.
And a part of that growing research for you and that curious mind is, one of your latest ventures is looking at, growing cannabis and the CBD oils and the hemp industry, which, I think Australia is just literally like on the iceberg of. Internationally, it's like everywhere, but we're kind of on our own little floating island over here, just like pandemic, we're not kind of like going a little bit further. How has that kind of come into your periphery and what are you kind of searching for there?
So this is a big topic of mine. This makes up like a huge portion of who I am. And Australia is a lot further behind than we like to think we are. Cannabis in the States is either legalized or decriminalized in most of the country now. And what decriminalized means for most people that don't know is you just don't get convicted of a felony, but it's still not legal. In Australia, the only way that you can obtain cannabis products is through a prescription from a doctor. Now, a lot of doctors in Australia are still against cannabis because of the stigma that was born from the Prohibition era. And there is the controversy around plant medicines versus pharmaceuticals. They just squashed the legalization of cannabis a couple of months ago in Australia. They said that it would create antisocial behavior, which I find very funny to say during a pandemic.
Yeah, when we're all isolating.
We're all being antisocial right now. So maybe the legalization of cannabis might make that a little bit easier. But cannabis in skin, it's very misleading in Australia at the moment. It's a very uneducated topic. There is a lot of ignorance around it, which for good reason. There's a lot of ignorance. There's been decades of smear campaigns around the plant, and there is a lot of people not wanting it to be legal. But with that, you're also getting people that are riding on the coattails of the hype and are selling subpar products. to people that don't know the difference between hemp and flowering cannabis. So the biggest difference, so industrial hemp doesn't grow the bud, and the bud is the flower that people smoke. Cannabis obviously is the name for the entire plant species, including hemp. And in America, the legalities are that if a cannabis plant is below a certain percentage in THC, it's classified as hemp, which is why a lot of products over there they say hemp, but they're actually still cannabis. It's to get around the decriminalization laws.
Gotcha.
But here in Australia, if you're buying a product online without a prescription that has anything in there about CBD, it's not the medicinal CBD that you think you're buying. It comes from hemp, and it's good in the way that it's nourishing, in the same way that fats and omegas are, but in terms of it being that antioxidant, that anti-inflammatory, that adaptogen, you're not going to get that same amount. So be really careful with the wording people use on cannabis products. I always like to check if there's third-party testing. And I always want to know what they're actually putting in it. I won't ever buy anything that just says hemp seed oil or hemp or anything like that. I make sure that it says where it's come from.
Interesting.
You just cannot, you don't have access to that here yet, which is upsetting because for someone that works with barrier disorders a lot and with conditions that are coming from internally, and I always say, not every gut condition will present in the skin, but every skin condition comes back down to the gut. Using cannabis products internally and externally would be a massive advantage for people, especially at the moment that are dealing with mask-related issues such as perioral dermatitis and stress-related issues that we're seeing more and more of, having been in a pandemic for so long.
And you guys have your own range of products. So I feel like insert House of Maxx hemp cannabis range in the future.
Do you know what? It's actually not something that I want to do. I don't want to create my own cannabis products because it is so complicated. There are people that do it amazingly. I feel like I would like to just connect with those people a little bit more and work alongside them. There are some amazing people starting to do some pretty incredible things. I just, for anyone that is listening, this is going to be a little bit of a plug for Lisa. For anyone in Melbourne, Lisa is a holistic pharmacist and has just opened up Astrid, which is a female-led cannabis dispensary. So she can put you in touch with doctors that can help prescribe you cannabis if that's the route that you want to go down. But still in Australia, you cannot just go into somewhere and say, I want to try a cannabis product and get it like you can, say, in California or Colorado.
Interesting. All righty. Go, Lisa. That's really, really cool. Coming back to your beauty bullshit moment before, you and I very much align on this. And this is something that, you know, I and the team at large at Beauty are really trying to break the stigma of, encourage the conversation, and certainly in Australia, just be a little bit more up with the times. You know, I think in the US and in the UK, like it's very, very tolerated for everybody to be treated, you know, and everybody. And when I say everybody, it's like all skin types, all races, all genders, all ethnicities, all skin conditions. Everybody is on marketing and billboards and campaigns and all of this stuff. But over here in Australia, it's very much still white, skinny, blonde girl, blue-eyed. That's like all over our marketing and posted on our walls, and it's airbrushed and they're beautiful and blah, blah, blah. But it's not real, right? And I know as a client, my body is riddled with stretch marks, riddled with cellulite. I have pigment everywhere. I have, you know, bloodshot eyes because I never ever sleep because my freaking baby always keeps me up every night, half an hour every night. Like I look like shit, you know? So when I see these like beautiful airbrush toned people, I can't relate to that. And I am a blonde, blue-eyed, white hair girl, right? So then how is somebody who is not darker haired, curly haired, tall, short, like how are they going to relate, right? And when we look at our databases of clients through our salon software point of sale systems, and if we pulled our top 20 clients, they don't look like the poster. So I am so here for, just showing real bodies and real people. And so I was scrolling on the gram, as you do, probably at 3 a.m. because my baby was awake, and came across your movement, the individual beauty movement. And I was like, stop the screen, stop the scroll. Not much makes me stop, but we need to have a look at this. And that's when I was like, I need Makayla on the podcast. So tell me all of the things. What made you do this? What is it? Like, I want to know everything.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the beauty industry has a lot to say for the whitewashing. And I think as people that work within the beauty industry, there is a level of oppression on us, but it's also our responsibility to be aware of that and change it. And it's so unconscious. Like if you think about the colors that represent the beauty industry, like if you think about a beautiful clinic, what color is it? You're looking at white, beige, and pink. So therefore, what models do they get to fit the same branding and aesthetic? Models that are within that color of white, beige, and pink, and that look good with those colors. Do you know what I mean? So we're so unconscious about the little representation that is within the industry, and it goes far beyond that. So I talk about the beauty industry being very oppressive, and the worst thing about it is it's women oppressing other women. If you listen to the conversations that we have with our clients, it's around men. What are you doing this weekend? You're going on a date. Okay, this is why you're here. So we need to make you look good this way. And a lot of our value is placed on our appearance. I actually turn clients away that are so appearance focused. And I say to them, this isn't the clinic for you, because my job is to make you and your skin healthy. And if you and your skin is healthy, that's where we finish with you. Like, we're not here to keep selling you something and keep creating problems that need fixing, because you aren't a problem and you don't need fixing. And like you said, you are white, you are slim, you are able-bodied, you're blonde, you're blue eyes. You once upon a time did fit the beauty standard. Now that beauty standard keeps changing, which is why we never feel like we are good enough. And now the beauty standard has changed so much so that no one fits it. You have to be white with ethnic features. You need to have a big bum, you need to have big boobs, you need to have a tiny waist, you need to have almond-shaped eyes, big lips, a sharp jawline, straight hair. Like, go find me this person that is built like this naturally. And I think it goes beyond that, because we always talk about you should feel beautiful, you should feel beautiful. But since I've started exploring this, I'm like, I don't actually think it's about feeling beautiful. I think it's about beauty not having anything to do with it. We are these amazing beings. Our skin has this incredible function that keeps us alive, yet we base it all on how it looks. We are here and we are so much more than our appearance. So the campaign, it's actually my second campaign I've done. So I'm very protective over this one. As the first campaign, the movement, the message got diluted as people reposted things and were not using the message correctly. So this one I'm very protective over, and I still haven't represented all of my people. I would love to do more campaigns that have different ages. I would love to do more campaigns that have rarer skin conditions. Like, I was really hoping to find someone with albinism, and I was really hoping to find someone with quite an intensive keloid scarring. But my biggest setback with the campaign was finding people who have been consistently told that they're flawed, who are willing to be in front of a camera and be vulnerable. That was the hardest thing. So it took me about 18 months to find all my models. And I wanted the message to be a little bit deeper than everyone's beautiful, everyone holds a space. I wanted to educate people on why their skin does the things that we hate and why we shouldn't hate it. So talking about stretch marks and how that is, I haven't gotten to the point actually of talking about what was in the images, as I've still been rolling out the images, but very soon you'll start to see the messages come out. But talking about stretch marks and how they are a dermal scar. So buying your oil from the chemist that is full of petrochemicals and rubbing it on, it's not going to change anything, and you shouldn't feel like you need to. Things like scars, they're incredible. Like if we didn't scar, what's the alternative? And even talking about the messages behind that, like in one of the campaigns, the beautiful Morgan has a very intensive self-harm scar down her forearm. And she speaks on how she's proud that, you know, her body has led her to this point and she's here and she just has to accept herself and she can't hold any more shame. But then we also go into our oppressive minority groups and our intersectional oppression. So where you spoke about, you know, that you're blonde and you're thin and you're able-bodied and things like that, when people start to fall into multiple groups, who is representing them? So we've got Nick with vitiligo, who is that's an autoimmune condition. Winnie Harlow has done great things to advertise, I guess, this skin condition. But now it's seen as a trend, which we're missing the point on why these things happen to the body. So it's about bringing that back in, representing the people that we see when we go outside. Like, what does our community look like? And why are we only seeing white people in our campaigns? White thin people. So we'll be talking about keratosis pilaris. We'll be talking about texture, scarring, pigment, autoimmune conditions, things like that.
Yes. Oh, I'm so here for it. You know, and even as you're talking about stretch marks, then, you know, I kind of reflected on the fact that I gave birth to nearly a 5 kilo baby, which in pounds is like 10.11. So yes.
I was like, my little brother was that size too.
Huge, like huge babies. For anyone who hasn't given birth, like the average weight of a baby is like 7 pounds. So like 10.11, he like came bursting through the door and like basically walked to the pub and ordered a steak. Like he was here, you know. But I'm kind of like, I look at these stretch marks and it reminds me of my son, and it reminds me, you know, of the incredible body, you know, and just this female lioness energy that gives birth, you know. And while I'm like, damn it, I hate these stretch marks, you know, it's not what my body looks like beforehand. It's very much like, well, you know, you've created a human being, your body has created this, you're now a mum, you're not who you were beforehand, and your body's not what it was beforehand, you know. But I'm kind of feeling proud of like, okay, well, I'm doing all of this, you know, and my body's got me there. So I really love that you're not just here for the moment, you know. And I think these campaigns sometimes, as you said with Winnie Harlow, sometimes it can just be a very of the moment thing. And it's like, oh, I want to jump on board of this. But it's like, let's wrap that moment in education and, you know, and progression and conversation. And let's just not make it a moment, but let's actually make it now the normal, you know, so that we can carry on in the future and people can feel proud and seen to come into a clinic and not feel ashamed of a stretch mark, for example.
Yeah, there's actually a line in a song, and what does it say? Half of us chasing the fountain of youth while it's in the present. So we trade youth for experience and wisdom, you know, and that's the way that life should go. And I always say the most oppressed people are the most powerful. So women, just in general, like we talk about Mother Nature, like the woman is the creator. And we literally have a portal for human life in between our legs. Yet we base all of our value on how we look and what we've achieved before we're 30. And if we haven't gotten married and had kids and we look great and we look like we're not struggling and we look like we're sleeping 12 hours a night while we've got a family of 6, then we're not worth anything. So it's more about having women accept their bodies and accept how much they have achieved with those bodies and not carrying that guilt and shame around like, oh, you've got some stretch marks. Like, yeah, you literally like grew a human.
And I think we need to encourage clients to stop apologizing You know, like the many times in my career where I've done a fake tan or I'm about to do a massage and somebody's gone, oh my God, I'm so sorry for my hairy legs. Or, oh my God, I'm so sorry. You know, I just ate a big burger or, you know, whatever that is. And I'm like, why are you saying sorry? What do I give a shit about your hairy legs or the fact that you've ate a burger and you look like you've got a baby in there? Like, who cares? You know, that's what a body is.
Exactly. And that's the thing. Like, we're so self-absorbed. No one cares about you. You only care about yourself. And it was actually when I went to New York and I started visiting cannabis businesses. So whether they were wellness clinics or just retail or anything like that. And I went around to all the different beauty counters and things like that. I started realizing New York had this awesome attitude. And I think it's why people are drawn to New York, where you could walk down the street of New York naked and no one would care because they've seen it all before. And it really gives you this sense of empowerment of no one's watching me. No one could care less about what I'm doing. And I actually recently did a interview on psychedelics and mental health and how it helps you realize that there is a bigger picture. We're a part of something bigger. So let's not base everything on how we look. And as an industry, the beauty industry, we really need to be mindful of that and mindful of our marketing, the whole anti-aging. Like, why? Aging is a privilege, guys. So why are we wanting to hide that? Like, again, we're swapping youth for experience and wisdom. You want to trade that back? I don't.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, look, as my last question, I have on the piece of paper in front of me, like, what do you feel like when you look back at your career? But I actually want to throw that question in the bin. And I'm curious to hear your answer on this. What's your hope for like the future of our industry and the people? So the people being the therapists, the business owners, the managers. Obviously, you talked about, you know, like the bullying culture before and the bitchiness and competitiveness that comes with the industry. And obviously, we're talking about clients feeling acceptance and progression in the industry. So I'm keen to hear your thoughts on that. Like, you know, fast forward 5 years' time, we record another podcast. What do you hope we're chatting about then?
What do I hope I've done? This is a difficult question for me because I've always, as you probably gathered from the answers to all my other questions, all your other questions to me, sorry, I've always known what I was going to do. But 2020, throw all that out the window and just really consolidate everything that's in your life and make sure that everything that you're doing is consistent. And that is what I'm hoping for. I'm wanting the industry as a whole to look at their mission statements, look at their values, and think about how they can be more consistent in them. A big topic around that at the moment is inclusivity. You hear these buzzwords a lot, but I want to see those brands actually utilize their values. I want to see where they're actually putting their values into action instead of just talking about them. That's something that I really want to see happen in the industry, because that's what I spent the last couple of years really doing. I was like, what are our values and how can we be more sustainable? How can we care about the community more? How can we be more inclusive, more innovative? How can we empower people more? So industry-wide, I'd like to see that. I would love to see women just have a little bit of awareness around how we treat others and how we treat ourselves. So guilt and shame help no one. So we need to understand that we've gotten to this point because of our programming as beings and what's put in front of us. And we believe that we're ugly because we've been programmed the same way, you know? So it doesn't serve anyone to shame someone that has fallen victim to that programming. So I talk openly about the cosmetic procedures that I've had done because I don't want people to think you need to be 100% all in. Otherwise, you're contradicting yourself. We're humans, we make mistakes, we do things unconsciously and we learn. So I'd like to see a level of consciousness. In terms for myself, Plant medicines are a big passion of mine. They're like the next step after looking at your diet and lifestyle and your cellular health. There's some incredible research coming out about cannabis and about psychedelics and mental health, especially at the moment. Australia is really far behind. I always say we're 5 years behind, but I feel like we're more like 10. We opened the clinic 6 years ago, and only now you're starting to see more clinics in the States that work in the same way as us, where we work alongside doctor of Chinese medicine and naturopath and integrative nutrition, and we look at people's emotions and how that affects the functions within their body. As for me, in 5 years' time, I'm actually really finally made peace with going with the flow and seeing what opportunities come my way. I was so fixated on being a business owner and opening a clinic that when I did that, I was like, oh, I didn't think beyond this. I didn't think what else there was for me to achieve, especially as a country girl. You know, we're not taught about what options there are. I remember moving to Melbourne when I was 18 and someone telling me that they were studying e-commerce and me being like, what is e-commerce? Because we're only ever taught about trades. So I've been making amazing connections, like Lisa from Astrid, like the girls that I work with, the health press, they're the doctor of Chinese medicine and the naturopath. My best friend, she's an astrologer. I'm around people that are shamans, breathwork teachers. So I think it's just about, for me, developing more knowledge on how intrinsically the body works and educating and empowering. I do love to speak. I love treating my clients too, but my biggest thing is education and having people look within themselves and finding out about more of who they are. So my favorite journeys with my clients are the ones that it sparked so much passion in them, what they've learned about themselves, that they go and make changes amongst their friends, their family, even their careers. I've had clients leave office jobs to then go and pursue a career in fitness or holistic health, naturopathy, Pilates, like just changing their lifestyle to something that suits the feminine more. And the reason I say the feminine, I'm not talking about women, I'm talking about the female energy. So the masculine is the go, go, go. That's the way that we live in this world. You know, everything's scheduled, everything's structured. It's all about productivity. And the feminine, which is why people are so uncomfortable at the moment, which is all about rest and flow and creation. And we don't know how to do that. So now that we're all isolated, we're all going crazy and feel like we're being counterproductive by doing nothing, when it's actually quite the opposite. So I want people to see like how divine the feminine is, embrace that. And I kind of just want to go with the flow and see what comes to me, because if I'm sticking to my values and I'm remaining in my integrity and I'm consistent with my message, then I believe I'm going to attract the people and the opportunities that are really going to nourish me and where I feel like my purpose is.
Good answer.
A bit of a complicated one.
Well, we don't know what the future is looking like right now. I mean, we never do, but normally we have, you know, that kind of future in our eyesight, but now it's more uncertain than ever. But it feels like you're very much in the right place, you know, though you're in isolation in lockdown. Maybe you don't want to be there, but it feels like, you know, holistically you're in the right place and you've got a good head on your shoulders, and I have no doubt that you will get there.
As hard as life can be sometimes, I try and remind myself, like, we're always exactly where we need to be. Even when we feel like we've made a mistake, even when we feel like we've ruined things for ourselves, that's the human experience, isn't it?
Absolutely. Makayla, thank you so much for coming and having a chat with me today. It has been absolutely divine. I feel like I could chat to you forever and a day. So no doubt there will be a part 2 of this episode in the future.
Oh, my pleasure. I've had so much fun. It's obviously something I'm really passionate about, so I love being able to talk about it.
Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode of the Beauty Industry Podcast. What a special treat that was. I just really love people who are harnessing the progression and change of our industry because, yes, we have come so far, but I feel like we've really got such a long way to go. And with beauty movements like the individual beauty movement, we can really all band together to help our clients and help us progress in that space. You can, of course, swipe up in your podcast app to follow the individual beauty movement and House of Maxx and to check out everything that Makayla is doing there down in Melbourne. While you're there, jump on over, let me know who you want to hear up on the podcast next by DMing me at Tamara Reed Beauté, and of course, follow along at Beauté Industry for all of the beauty goodness. Until next time, stay connected.